DAZ Central is a popular option for users to create avatars with because of its large library of assets and general ease of use. Also, DAZ comes equipped with DAZ to Unity under its Bridges options, which to import this, it's covered in their documentation, but essentially it's an easy-to-use plugin that speeds up the process of bringing assets out of DAZ and into Unity. I already have it installed, so I'm not going to go over the process of importing it, but generally it takes between 1 to 2 minutes to do, and it helps speed up the process of bringing your assets from DAZ to Unity much more quickly. So to start things off, I'm just going to create a simple figure to showcase how we can bring that asset in. I'm going to be using a Genesis 8 male, like so. And these are just the general templates people can choose from. There's a lot of documentation on how to create a character in DAZ. And this just gives me a very basic template of a character to work with. And I can customize this with various wardrobes and different sort of clothes specs. I believe, let's see, boxer wear, basic muscle shirt, Fashion America boots, maybe Fashion America pants. That doesn't really work. I'm going to get rid of the eyelashes here by deleting those. So I don't really need those. They add a little bit of extra geometry I don't really plan on using. Tier. So probably the Captain America pants I don't need. Select my character again. Go under utilities, wardrobe. Let me think here. Hellfire pants. There we go. Okay, so I'm looking relatively well dressed. I can customize other things like materials, add hair, things like that. But for the most part, this is essentially going to be the avatar I'm going to be bringing in. So, to get this character ready for Flipside, it's almost there. One thing I need to do, though, is to delete some of these additional twist bones on the upper arms as well as the legs, because they're actually going to interfere with the retargeting process. So to do that, all I have to do is first make sure I'm using the Joint Editor tool here, like so, and then select the different joints that I want to remove from the skeleton. Go delete, delete bone, and then just repeat the process for all the bones that I want gone, like so. That's looking spiffy. I'll leave the spine generally alone. There's also several face bones that we could potentially remove if you really didn't want those, since we're using blend shapes, but I think for the most part this character is almost ready. The only other thing I want to do is actually go through the list of geometry that makes up this character and make sure under my parameters that I have my general resolution. Here it is. So my resolution should be set to base because, of course, I'm going to be bringing my character into VR. So I want to be using the lowest possible amount of geometry because that'll have the lowest memory footprint. And I can find the resolution level just by selecting the different objects, scrolling down. Okay, base and Hellfire pants. Set that to base. Okay, so that's the general resolution fixed. The joints on the character are taken care of. Now all I need to do, and of course, you can make additional edits on top of this. Change the general size of the character using different shaping parameter tools, bodybuilder, things like that. Portly. Just tweak those different settings as is normal in DAZ. But we'll essentially say this character is pretty much ready to go and bring into Flipside. So what I can do is I can select the top level asset here in my scene, go to File, and if I have it installed correctly, I have the option Send to DAZ to Unity. And this is gonna speed up and simplify the process of bringing this character from DAZ to Unity because it organizes it better and makes it easier to choose specifically what it is I want to send. So the asset name I'm going to give this character, my DAZ, it's the name I'm giving him. You'd give your character a more relevant name. The asset type I'm starting with is a skeleton mesh because I'm exporting a character with a skeleton as well as blend shapes. And I definitely want to enable morphs on this character, and I can actually choose exactly which morphs I want to bring over for my character. Because by default, Genesis H, Genesis 3, all those basic character templates that Daz comes with is actually equipped with several blend shapes to help in different productions, including expressions, facial shapes, visemes, and we can take advantage of those in Flipside. To actually find those, you're going to have to navigate to the Genesis 8 mail, and I believe it's under the head, default, hidden. There we go. Ollie 8. Here it is. Pose controls is the area we want to choose, and you have different sections for like the head, torso, arms, neck, hip. Here we go. Here it is. Expressions 8.1. So like they're organized into different sections, and you can find all the associated blend shapes that you could possibly use under the overarching selection. But generally, we're going to start with all of the expressions here: afraid, angry, flirty, brown, smile. Add those. So I'm going to take all of these, since they let me control like the specific shapes. The mouth. In other versions, there may be like a specific viseme section for you to choose from. Okay, mouth open, and the only other thing I want to make sure I have is an eye blink blend shape. And that should essentially cover everything I need to animate my character's face in Flipside. So I'm going to hit accept. So I don't want to enable subdivisions, I just want the face subdivision for this character. And then under the Unity Assets folder, select that, and that's what Daz Unity needs to export the files. The only other thing to keep in mind is you don't want install Unity files enabled. That's actually going to introduce conflicts with Flipside's internal scripts. But thankfully, the actual importing tools that Daz wants to install is specific to the high definition render pipeline, which isn't something we use in Flipside at this time. So essentially, this is all that I need to export my character. So hopping over to Unity, and this already has Flipside Creator Tools loaded, as well as just a general scene file that from a previous character that I've done. Yeah, that's essentially all you need. Unity project with a compatible type, Flipside Creator Tools, and the avatar/set you want to import. Okay, so Daz 3D, this is a previous character I was working on. Here's my Daz. I'm going to hit refresh. Okay, character has a normal map. I'm going to fix that. And you can actually see in my project window, there's my avatar essentially. File, scene, like so. Just have a general look. You'll see some of the materials may have suffered a little bit. There's actually a little bit of clipping on the back where the pants weren't compatible with the shirt. That's something I could edit later on. But for the most part, the character looks like they're ready. Also, my full blend shape list is here. As you can see, eye blink. Here, there's a little bit of weirdness going on with the ears. That's an easy enough fix. I can actually change that by going under my import settings. Use legacy blend shape normals. Like so. I click that, find my blend shapes. And click drag. You can see that looks just about right. Okay. So normally at this point, I'd probably start setting my rig to humanoid and getting that all ready. But there is an additional step that you have to take with Daz avatars, unfortunately, and that's to bring it into Blender and then modify the skeleton. The reason for that is the actual joint orientation, pivot local, for all the joints is actually in world space, and we need these to all point to one another in sequence using the y-axis. It's very important that we have a different orientation than the default one Daz gives us. But thankfully the fix is relatively simple, even for someone who hasn't used Blender before. So to start things off, I'm going to load up Blender 2.9. And as you can see, I've got a blank scene. I'm going to select everything in my scene, right-click, delete hierarchy. So now I've got a completely empty environment. File, import FBX, and I'm actually going to navigate to that same Unity project. Project, assets, 3D, my DAZ. There's my DAZ. Okay, and there's some important import settings you'll have to use. One of the key ones is to make sure you use pre-post rotation. That's disabled. I don't want to tweak the manual orientation. I don't need any animations. And for the armature, I want to force connect the children, and I want automatic bone orientation. And in my experience, that helps the import process significantly. And there he is. So here's my character standing in relatively the same pose, but as you can see, if I change my viewport settings, the skeleton joints are all pointing to one another in sequence. This is awesome. There's also these like extra empty bones here. Those are still present, but they're actually not weighted to anything, and they're not going to interfere with how the character functions, so we leave those. And yeah, that is essentially all we really need to do is import the character with those settings, and that's essentially fixed our skeleton. So I'm going to click the top level element here on my character, File, Export, FBX. I'm going to find my DAZ. I'm actually going to save over this avatar here, and I just need to tweak my settings for export. Path mode auto, I can change different settings here. One thing is I like to set Z forward, Y up, apply unit, use space transform, geo, leave that there. For my armature, Y and X, change this to root. I don't want to add leaf bones, and don't bake the animation, because we have no animation that we want to bake onto this avatar. And that should essentially fix everything up. I'm going to go back to Unity, hit refresh because I made changes to my character. Okay. And if we look at the skeleton, we can see all of our bones are actually pointing to each other sequentially, which is exactly what we need for Flipside. So, our character is essentially ready in that department, so all I have to do is go through the standard Flipside avatar importing process, which is taking your rig, setting it to humanoid. It takes a moment to go through and process the skeleton of the character, create a definition for that. I'm going to configure it, don't want to save that scene. So, I'm going to remove the upper chest bone, which if I zoom in on my character, right there, upper chest. I can also swap out maybe some of the other chest bones depending on the deformations I'm getting. I'm going to remove the shoulder bones as well. This makes the torso a little bit stiffer, yes, but it also helps with the character's general standing position. For the head, just going to remove these bones here. I'm hitting the delete key on my keyboard, which is the fast way. You can also choose the none selection with this little toggle. And otherwise, everything else is essentially good to go. Just going to hit apply. Check my muscle settings. So, see, character's all deforming, looks pretty good. All very normal. Check the hands quickly. Thumb could use a little bit of tweaking, so I'm going to go back to the mapping. And this part isn't an exact science, unfortunately. But essentially, I can choose my bone. Just rotate it out a little bit. Out, maybe down a bit. Maybe not that far. Repeat on the process on the other side. Try that out. And this part can be a little bit of back and forth. I'm only going to do the first pass, but this is generally how you fix your thumbs. So check hand in and out. See, so the thumb is sitting essentially on the outside of the fist. Might tweak that a little bit more later. There we go. Also, sometimes I'll raise my feet spacing value just a little bit. Relatively small change, generally doesn't affect things. I like to turn that up though. Hit apply, and then hit done. Okay, our avatar is now ready for setup in Flipside. So with that same FBX selected, I can either open my Creator Tools, navigate to my tab and choose Import My Character, or Create Character from Selected Model from the menu here. I'm going to do that now. Okay, so now it's going through the process of importing my avatar. Okay, and this dialog either sets up the collider level on your character. It's a very powerful tool. It's not necessarily something that we use all the time with characters, but in this case I'm going to set it to none, but you can use those colliders to interact with your scene. Hit import. So it looks like everything came in except for the jaw. The jaw seemed to have gone weird. This sometimes happens, but the fix is relatively straightforward. You literally just go down to your skeleton, find the head, find your lower jawbone, and then just correct the rotation till that sits right. Hit save, and then it's just a matter of going through the process of wiring up your character like normal. So as you can see, I've got my avatar model references, I've got my character, my DAZ, attribution, DAZ 3D. You can add a thumbnail. For my center eye, I'm going to set this to the global transformation, and I'm going to move that into position. Oh, just went into 2D mode by accident. That's fun. Move that. My eyes are relatively here on my character. I'll probably adjust those to improve general articulation as I'm working with them. Save. So, as well as my eyes, left eye and right eye. If I grab those eye bones and actually like rotate them, kind of hard to see. So one material you'll often have to fix is the cornea material. You can do that by navigating to the imported materials folder for your character. And I'm going to change that to transparent, which is kind of a heavier material. Usually I'll just disable this material altogether, maybe set it to cutout, and just set the alpha fall off to something really low, like that. This creates kind of a blank eye look. The other option is you can set it to transparent, set the smoothness really high, maybe add some metallic. No, metallic doesn't really work. And generally I'll turn off reflections so we only get a specular highlight of some kind. There we go, that's already looking really good. And yeah, back to the eyes. If I click one of my eye bones and rotate, as you can see, the eye of the character moves around. So we can use that to have the character look at different assets. Also, I can set this to 0 if I don't want eyes, and undo that. And ignore eye targets is also an option. Okay, so now I need to choose a different expression type and also check to see which asset I'm actually animating with. And it looks like it actually found my boots, which isn't the asset I want my facial animations to happen on. It's actually Genesis 8 male.shape. That's what I want. Because this is the face of the character. This is what's going to deform and animate. Okay, so these are tongue controls, flip controls, things like that. And basically what we'll do is we'll choose the blend shape mode, simplified or full blend shapes. Full blend shapes is generally what I'll use for a character like this, so I have full mouth articulation. And then it's a process of just going through and assigning different blend shapes to create the different expressions or effects that we want. So for instance, happy, I'll use that happy full face, or maybe that's a little bit intense, like that. And I can use that to control the expressions on my character, or other things like blinks, which are controlled automatically. I blink, check that. I can actually tweak it a little bit. My character's eyes sit a little bit closed at all times, as well as the different visemes that are the shapes that the mouth makes when you're making various noises. Usually these are either like a specific blend shape, or maybe you'll make them out of composite shapes by like adding multiple mouse shapes. So smile left, smile stretch. So like press right, and that's using surprised, maybe mouth frown, like so. And depending on how the character's set up and the blend shapes that you imported, this whole process will change. I'm probably going to pause the video now while I wire up the full blend shape list, which I'll show you after the fact, and then we'll finish up the importing process. Okay, one round trip from Daz 3D through Blender back into Unity. Added some additional blend shapes to the character that I missed for the jaw. And now, as you can see, I've got the full retinue of expressions. And these can be refined further. I've got a huge list of blend shapes to play with and experiment to create the exact mouth shapes that I want to achieve. Generally, I just threw this together quickly to get a sense of the different blend shapes I had to work with. But as you can see, I filled out the whole list here. And maybe for this character, if I could get away with just using simplified blend shapes, so I have a single mouth open and closed expression, that'll speed things along and still look pretty convincing. The general approach is going to vary depending on the fidelity of the avatar you're working with. So that concludes blend shapes and how those are all set up here. Then of course we have, after the fact, we have our avatar bent elbow settings. These I generally drop pretty low, and depending on how the character looks in playback, maybe I'll raise those up a little bit. I'll find my wrist twist bones, forearm left and right. Those are assigned automatically. Sometimes you'll have to plug these in manually. And I also have some event handler scripts, which are really powerful. But for the most part, that essentially concludes it. This is pretty much a complete avatar that I can bring into Flipside and use in production. As with all other characters, I'll open my Flipside Creator Tools, hit Build and Publish, and the character will be exported over to Flipside, and here I am in Flipside. As you can see, my character is articulating, moving around, following my movements, and looks pretty good. That concludes bringing a general character from Daz into Unity. The process will definitely vary depending on how the character's set up, whether you're using Genesis 3, 8, 8.1, or some other character template. But for the most part, this covers the general uses and sort of things to keep an eye on when creating your character. Thanks for listening.